Now, first of all, let me say that there is nothing wrong with having pride in who you are and where you come from. But race pimps and hoteps take it too goddamn far. And it is, in my opinion, that they are the two groups that socioeconomically hold African Americans back collectively. So, what is a hotep? First of all, you need to understand who Imhotep was in ancient Egypt. He was a doctor, a philosopher, architect. He was like all these things. And he is the model by which the modern black man is somehow supposed to aspire to. And of course, the word Hotep means peace in Egyptian, so that's where you get the root. Now, a modern day Hotep, the hardcore Hoteps, are the brothers and sisters you see, that rock the dashikis. They got the Nefertiti hats. They wear beads with ankhs and other African symbolism. And sometimes they even have a cane carved out of wood. They're basically caricatures of how they think Africa should be represented by those who do not live in Africa. In fact, they talk all this stuff about Africa, even though they've never been there, and most have no intentions on going. Everything is about race to the Hotep. Everything. Doesn't matter what. If you think my conspiracy theories are wild, theirs are even wilder, and they always break down to the white man. Because Hotepism is a religion. And just as with any religion, you got the good, and then you got the bad. Say, for example, Christianity, you have God, then you have the devil. For Hoteps, the black man is God, and the white man is the devil. So anything that goes wrong in the black community is automatically the white man's fault. Doesn't matter. It could be a crime committed on camera where you can see the person's face clearly. Oh, he only did that because of systemic racism. It's really ridiculous. Now, I will give them props in the fact that they will wear their natural hair. Like, I really think that's an important part of a healthy self-identity is accepting yourself as you are. But they just take it too goddamn far. And the internet has given them like a new platform. There's plenty of YouTube channels with the brothers and sisters. Shalom, brothers and sisters. Today I want to talk about whatever. They're always sitting in front of some bookshelf full of books they never read. They got if you look at their background on the walls, they got those hand-carved wooden African masks, some bullshit they bought at the swap meet. And you can always recognize these people on Facebook too, because their profile pic is usually a lion with some red and black and green background or some kind of other Egyptian iconography. They post memes with stupid shit on it like Tutankhamun invented the internet in the 4th dynasty, stupid shit like that. And they really believe it. And any argument you have with the Hotep is going to boil down to the black man and black woman is gods and goddesses, and the white man's the devil, and whatever. And don't get me wrong, as a black man, there's nothing I would love more than to know that my skin color automatically makes me a god, but it's just not true. There's a lot of satanic activity that goes on within the black community without a white hand anywhere near it. Well, that's because of systemic racism. See, the white man put us in these conditions. Okay, I know all that. All right. But you're going to have to then explain to me why there are so many successful African Americans, people who started out from the same lineage of hardship as the rest. And I'm not just talking about athletes and rappers who got lucky. I'm talking about your business owners, you guys who, own their own banks or what have you. Where did they come from? Many of them grew up in the exact same conditions that you're complaining about. Well, that's because the white man let them. They have to let a few of them through. See, now you just offended me. You're basically saying that white people are so diabolically intelligent and black people are so stupid that we can't do anything without their approval. I take offense to that. And I would think that a Hotep who believes that they are a supernatural being would also be as equally as offended. But that's just not how it is. Black man is God, black woman is goddess. But what if she has 8 kids from 6 different gangbangers. She's still a goddess. It was systemic racism that made that happen. Really? Yeah, he's right. If that white man would have gave me a job, I wouldn't have laid up under all these gangbangers. Okay. You see, Hotepism is a front for fuckery. And one of the biggest denials is the fact that it is broken homes that really affect the black collective. How do we go from 20% single motherhood in the 1970s to 70% single motherhood homes? It's like normal. Like, out of all your black friends, let's say you have 10 black friends, 7 of them grew up with just their mothers. And either they didn't know their father or their father just wasn't around, which means the father and the mother were co-conspirators in fucking up those children's lives. And trust me, I see this in my own family. When a female family member calls me complaining about her baby daddy and how he ain't shit, I remind her that she laid up under that nigga who ain't shit and is just as responsible for what that child doesn't have as he is. Now, she's my family and her children are my family, so I'm going to assist where I can, but I'm not letting her off the hook. Even my daughters, I let my daughters know, and I know a lot of y'all going to, especially you Hoteps, going to take issue with this. I tell my daughters, listen, if you fucking with a black dude who grew up in a single parent home with just his mother, you are rolling the dice. How could you say that, man? You are Uncle Tom. Listen, you can have unprotected sex and not get someone pregnant or catch a disease, but why would you risk it? Knowing the number one way to get someone pregnant or to catch a venereal disease is through unprotected sex. So it's the same thing. If you know that statistically, a lot of these men grow up not knowing how to be men and how to be proper fathers, why would you put yourself in that situation? And what's more, why would you bring a child into that situation and then blame systemic white racism for it? This is what Hotepism protects. Now, those are the hardcore Hoteps, right? Now let's talk about the down low Hoteps. These are the black people who don't even know they're Hoteps, right? Because they don't wear the African stuff and they don't say shalom. They even make fun of Hoteps. Man, these Hoteps are taking it too far. But they do the same thing. They defend black fuckery by blaming systemic racism. Everything is white systemic racism, right? Any black person who's arrested or shot, automatically innocent. But see, the difference between the down low Hoteps and the Hoteps is the Hoteps actually stay within the black community, right? And there are some real bona fide Hoteps who really are there trying to help their people and trying to help their communities. But a majority of them are there to just making excuses for their fuckery. These down low Hoteps move out of black neighborhoods. They are just as afraid of the black collective as every other group. And then they sit in their white suburban neighborhoods and talk shit about systemic racism. It's like, by your own logic, if white supremacy is the issue, why would you want to live that close to them? You should be dead according to your statistics. But you know that it's safer in those white neighborhoods than it is in your Hotep neighborhoods, where there's a high concentration of your gods and goddesses. The down low Hotep will say stupid shit like, we need to protect our women, as if we own black women, which is some very patriarchal shit to say. And they're only doing it for likes and pats on the head from hood rats, because hood rats are the only ones who would agree with such fuckery. Down low Hoteps, they're the worst. I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. When the film comes out, what's the film? Birth of a Nation, right? When that movie comes out, the movie about Nate Parker in October, they're going to rush out to see it. And they're going to hail Nate Parker up as the new black king of cinema, right? He's the one that's making the film. Then about a week later, these same Hotep, down low Hoteps, are going to be writing blogs and making vlogs and videos about how Nate Parker has a white wife and biracial kids. And they're going to hold that against him, just like they did Steve McQueen, the director of 12 Years a Slave, as well as the leading man in that film. What was his name? Chewy Tail, somebody with African name. These guys were held up as the black kings of cinema when they won Best Picture at the Oscars, until they showed up on the red carpet with their white wives. Suddenly, these same people, these same Hoteps, down low Hoteps, who were holding them up as the black kings of cinema, began to tear them down. with headlines that said, how come whenever a black man makes it, he got to run out and get a white girl? Which is ridiculous because there's plenty of successful black men who are married to black women. But again, down low Hoteps are no different than Hoteps. Everything boils down to race, no matter what. No one in these groups has a mind of their own. They need leaders. When you debate with them, you'll notice that all of their talking points come directly from my next group, who runs all these individuals, and they are called the race pimps. Right? These are the pastors of the church of Hotepism. Right? And the difference here is race pimps know that the shit they're spouting is bullshit, but they make so much money from it, it's in their best interest to keep it going. First of all, race pimps never live in a black neighborhood. Ever, 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 ever. In fact, they live in some of the best white neighborhoods, all the while telling their congregation, the Hoteps and down low Hoteps, about how bad systemic racism is and how it's holding them back, and that's why they live in the conditions they live in. Instead of writing books about how to become successful like me or how to do things the way I did them, they're just going to continuously write books and make films about how white people have just subjugated all of us and they're terrible, this, that, and the other. Now, in their defense, I mean, white supremacy has been an issue on the planet, on every continent, no doubt. No one's denying that. But to pretend like it's some godlike power that can't be overcome is where they get their power from. They use race issues as a means to hold power and make money. They sit around waiting for any human issue where there's a race difference and pounce on it. Now, don't get me wrong. Again, this is not to say that racism doesn't exist and shouldn't be examined. I don't want you to mistake those who are actual authors and speakers who write books on the history of racism or explore the current existence of racist groups and their exploits around the world. Those aren't race pimps. Those are actual people who are really interested in the exploration of racism itself and its effects. But race pimps will take one random incident that happens between people every day, and as long as there's a race difference, they'll bombard their audiences with it and convince them that it's an epidemic. If one black person gets punched by a security guard on the subway, then all black people are in danger of being punched on subways. This is the way they work. Now, the race pimp industry goes back to the death of Martin Luther King. Right? When he died, there was a void left open for a new leader, and that person would be Jesse Jackson. And Jesse Jackson learned the white guilt payoff real quick. Right? And it works like this. IBM may fire an employee. He's black. And he may feel that it was race-based. So he'll call a lawyer. And perhaps this lawyer may have a connection to or directly know Jesse Jackson. He'll call him up. Jesse Jackson will say, IBM? Well, I'll be right there. He gets on a plane and he goes down there. He'll go down there and meet with the victim. He won't call any cameras or any press. He'll find out what the situation is. Then he'll set up a meeting for himself without the victim with IBM. Right? And they have a closed door meeting. And he tells them this. All right, you guys know who I am. I make one call. I'll have CNN, MSNBC, NBC, ABC. I'll have every news outlet on the planet outside your doors right here, and I'll lead a press conference and tell them how racist you are. Unless you can pay me this amount. And it's usually in the high millions. And IBM, not wanting to deal with the fallout that's going to come from being labeled racist, they're going to pay him off. And they're going to pay the victim a little bit, but not as much as they pay Jesse Jackson. And he gets on a plane and leaves. Now, if they refuse to pay him, that's when he calls NBC or CBS and the rest of the outlets. And he holds a press conference with the victim standing next to him looking sad. And he basically forces them to have to pay him. Then he goes away. Now, if a black person was to be fired, let's say by a diner, let's say he worked at a diner, and the boss looks at him and says, "Get out of here, nigger, you're fired." He actually called him a nigger and everything. That person calls Jesse Jackson. Jesse Jackson ain't going to go there because that diner more than likely doesn't have the millions that he needs to line his pocket as a race pimp. Right? Now, another famous race pimp was Al Sharpton, we all know. Al Sharpton was an aspiring musician. He used to hang out with James Brown. But when that didn't work out, he found out that there was money in this race pimp shit. So in the mid to late 1980s, we started seeing him with his perm, leading his race pimp rallies. And make no mistake, Democratic politicians love race pimps because they line their pockets too. If you're a white politician and you're running for office in a predominantly black area, you need those votes. So, hey, Jesse, come on over here, man, and endorse me. Right? And Jesse, being the king of the Hoteps and down low Hoteps, endorses this man and puts him in office. None of these people have black people's best interests in mind, is what I'm saying. Now, this new generation can see through the bullshit. So Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson have both fallen from grace, but they have been replaced by younger and more savvy race pimps who have the internet on their side, right? They got black Twitter, they got black Facebook, they got all this stuff where they could spread their message real quick and really do some damage to an organization that they're trying to shake down. You know, feminist groups work the same way. There's a lot of groups, you know, they get together, they're basically shakedown organizations who use white guilt or the gender gap or whatever to shake down big corporations and get money from them. Meanwhile, not really helping the people that they claim to represent. And trust me, Black Lives Matter is no different. These are your race pimps. They're writing books, they're doing lectures, they're making films, just telling you. And again, race pimps never live in black neighborhoods. They always live in upper echelon white neighborhoods. And they're just going to tell you how bad white people are and white supremacy this, white supremacy that. Instead of making a film or writing a book about how I got successful or how I made it, they're going to tell you why you're stuck in the conditions you're in, which doesn't help you because there's no power in victimhood. Respect is not something you beg for, it's something that you take, right? And that's the problem I have with race pimps and Hoteps and down low Hoteps. Because at the end of the day, it's just a bunch of complaining. It's a bunch of complaining, it's a bunch of crying. There's no resolution. You know, I refuse to believe that the reason why black people have not advanced in so long is because white people are so powerful and godlike and so intelligent, and we're not. I'm not buying that. Right? Now, I'm not rich by any means. I'm quite the contrary. I struggle every day. But at the same time, I'm not going to sit here and reminisce about my great-great-great-grandfather and what was taken from him. Instead, I'm going to honor my great-great-great-grandfather by taking the cards I have and making the best play I can. Race pimps, Hoteps, and down low Hoteps do not allow for that, which is why I don't fuck with them, and neither should you.